Hey everyone, tonight we embark upon the hidden chronicles of one of the galaxy's most enigmatic Jedi Masters, the untold journey of Qui-Gon Jinn, a man whose final breath carried visions that would reshape the very fabric of destiny itself. From his mysterious childhood communion with ancient Force spirits to the cosmic revelation that led him willingly toward his fate on Naboo, this is a story of wisdom earned through suffering, of choices that echo across eternity. So before you settle in for this galactic odyssey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the deep Star Wars lore I share here. I've noticed that about 90% of you amazing viewers who watch these stories haven't subscribed yet. If you could hit that subscribe button, it would truly help this channel grow and allow me to bring you even more epic tales from a galaxy far, far away. And if you're captivated by stories of ancient mysteries and legendary figures, do check out my new channel, The Raven's Tales, where I explore the deepest secrets of Game of Thrones and other fantasy realms. You'll find the link waiting in the description below. I'm genuinely curious to know where in the galaxy you're joining us from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world. Drop a comment and let me know. There's something magical about knowing we're all connected across different time zones, sharing these timeless tales together. Now find your most comfortable position, let the soft hum of the night settle around you, and prepare to journey into the depths of Jedi history. In the final moments before Darth Maul's crimson blade found its mark, Qui-Gon Jinn saw something that would have changed everything. A vision so profound, so earth-shattering, that had he lived to share it, the Clone Wars might never have begun, and young Anakin Skywalker's path to darkness could have been illuminated by an entirely different light. But what did the dying Master see in those precious seconds between life and death? What cosmic truth was revealed to him that the galaxy would never know? Tonight we uncover the secret that died with him, and discover why the Force chose this one rebellious Jedi to carry the weight of prophecy itself. Our tale begins in the deepest chambers of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, 50 years before the Trade Federation would blockade Naboo. Here in the ancient archives where dust motes dance through shafts of eternal blue light, you find yourself among the most sacred repositories of Jedi knowledge. The air itself seems to hum with the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 generations, each breath carrying whispers of long-forgotten truths. You are a Force-sensitive historian, drawn to these hallowed halls by visions that have haunted your meditations for months. Visions of a tall, bearded Jedi Master, whose eyes held secrets too vast for any single lifetime. The Council has granted you access to restricted archives, for your research into the prophetic traditions of the ancient Jedi has proven invaluable to understanding the growing darkness that even now stirs in the galaxy's shadows. The chamber around you stretches upward into darkness, its walls lined with countless holocrons that pulse with soft, rhythmic light. Some contain the memories of Jedi who lived when the Republic was young. Others hold the final testaments of masters who foresaw their own demise. The silence here is profound, broken only by the gentle humming of the holocrons and the distant sound of your own heartbeat, amplified by the Force-sensitive crystals embedded in the walls. At your side walks Master Dooku, still decades away from his fall to the dark side, his hair not yet silver, but already showing the first threads of age. His presence is commanding yet gentle, his connection to the Force like a steady river flowing beside your own more turbulent stream. He moves with the measured grace of one who has spent his life in service to the light, and in his eyes you see the same curiosity that brought you here. The records you seek, Dooku says, his voice carrying the weight of authority and wisdom, are not merely historical documents. They are the living memory of a Jedi who walked closer to the Force than any of us dared to imagine. Qui-Gon Jinn was my Padawan once, but I confess there were times when I wondered who was truly the master and who the student. Before you lies a collection of personal effects, carefully preserved in the temple's deepest vaults. a lightsaber crystal that still resonates with its former owner's presence. Training journals written in an elegant hand that speaks of late nights spent in contemplation, and most intriguingly, a series of sealed holocrons that have remained locked since the day of Qui-Gon's death. As you reach toward the first of these mysterious recordings, the chamber seems to grow still, as if the very air holds its breath. The blue light of the holocrons dims slightly, and for a moment you could swear you feel another presence in the room. Something ancient and patient, watching from the spaces between heartbeats. There are those among the council, Dooku continues, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, who believe that some knowledge is too dangerous to be preserved. They would have these records destroyed, these insights buried with their keeper. But the Force has other plans, it seems. It has brought you here just as it brought Qui-Gon to his ultimate destiny. The first holocron responds to your touch, its crystalline surface warming under your fingers. As it begins to glow more brightly, you sense the presence of other figures in the shadows of history. Master Yoda, who knew secrets he shared with no one. Master Windu, whose concerns about Qui-Gon's unorthodox methods ran deeper than mere protocol, and others, names lost to time, who recognized in the young Jedi something that both inspired and terrified them. The chamber fills with the soft sound of the holocron activating, and suddenly you are no longer merely a researcher seeking historical truth. You have become part of the story itself, a witness to events that shaped the galaxy's fate. The Force swirls around you like a living thing, and in its currents you begin to sense the first threads of a mystery that reaches back to the very dawn of the Jedi Order. What you are about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about destiny, choice, and the true nature of the Force itself. The holocron's activation sends ripples through the Force, and suddenly the chamber around you transforms. The walls seem to fade, replaced by swirling mists of memory and time. You find yourself standing in what appears to be Qui-Gon's private quarters, decades in the past, watching as a younger version of the future master sits cross-legged before a collection of ancient texts. Even in his youth, there was something different about Qui-Gon Jinn, where other Padawans moved with the careful precision taught by their masters. He flowed like water, each gesture seeming to follow currents invisible to others. His meditation posture was unconventional, his breathing deeper, more connected to something beyond the confines of the temple walls. The living Force speaks to those who listen, he murmurs to himself, his voice carrying the weight of revelation. But the Council teaches us to quiet our minds, to seek the stillness between thoughts. What if they are wrong? What if the Force wishes to be heard, not silenced? Through the recording, you witness the moment that would define his entire path. Young Qui-Gon reaches for a crystalline meditation focus, an ancient artifact that had been stored in the temple's deepest vaults for centuries. The moment his fingers touch its surface, the crystal blazes with light, and his eyes widen with wonder and terror. "I see," he whispers, his voice trembling. "I see the threads, the connections, the pattern that binds all things together across time itself." The vision within the holocron shifts, showing you glimpses of what the young Jedi saw in that moment of connection. Flashes of the future cascade through your consciousness. A small boy with eyes like blue fire, his potential burning so bright it could blind stars. A hooded figure whose very presence seems to devour light. Twin suns setting over endless desert sands, a massive space station with the power to destroy worlds. But these visions are fragmented, incomplete, like trying to see the ocean through drops of water. You understand now why Qui-Gon spent his life walking the narrow path between orthodox teaching and dangerous knowledge. He had seen too much to remain ignorant, yet not enough to act with certainty. The recording continues, and you watch as Qui-Gon carefully documents his experience in his private journal. His handwriting is precise, methodical, the work of someone who understands that knowledge without wisdom is the path to destruction. The Force showed me glimpses of what may come to pass, he writes. A chosen one who will bring balance, but at a cost that staggers the mind. I have seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of hope itself. Yet I am but one small piece in a pattern so vast that mortal minds cannot comprehend its entirety. Dooku's voice brings you back to the present, his presence a steady anchor in the swirling currents of memory. This was the beginning, he says softly. The moment when Qui-Gon stopped being merely a Jedi and became something more, something the Council never quite understood. You turned to face him, seeing new depths in his eyes. You knew about the visions? I suspected. A master learns to read the signs in his Padawan. The way Qui-Gon would pause mid-sentence, as if hearing voices others could not detect. The manner in which he would change course during missions, following instincts that seemed to come from nowhere yet always led to the right destination. I thought it was simply exceptional intuition. I was wrong. The holocron pulses again, and another memory unfolds. This time you see Qui-Gon in the temple's meditation gardens, surrounded by other Padawans his age. While they practice their lightsaber forms with mechanical precision, he moves differently, as if guided by music only he can hear. His blade traces patterns in the air that seem to echo the very movement of the Force itself. Master Yoda observes from the shadows, his ancient eyes watching the young Jedi with an expression that mingles admiration with concern. Even then, the Grand Master recognized something in Qui-Gon that set him apart from his peers, something that could either save the galaxy or doom it. Dangerous, this one's path may be, Yoda murmurs to himself. Yet necessary, it might also prove. The Force works in ways beyond our understanding, and perhaps that is as it should be. The vision shifts once more, showing you Qui-Gon in his early 20s, kneeling before the Jedi Council. His trials are complete, his path to knighthood assured, yet there is tension in the chamber. Several council members exchange worried glances, their discomfort palpable through the Force. Your connection to the living Force is strong, young Jinn, Master Windu says, his voice carefully neutral, perhaps too strong. The dark side feeds on emotion, on the chaos of the moment. The light requires discipline, structure, the wisdom of established tradition. Qui-Gon's response is respectful but unwavering. With respect, Master Windu, the Force is not a tool to be controlled, but a river to be navigated. If we dam the waters, we may achieve temporary calm, but we also prevent the flow that brings life to distant shores. The debate that follows reveals the fundamental divide that would define Qui-Gon's relationship with the Council for the rest of his life. Where they saw dangerous deviation from proven methods, he saw the natural evolution of Jedi understanding. Where they preached the importance of emotional control, he spoke of emotional integration. Where they sought to preserve ancient wisdom, he argued for living wisdom that could grow and change with the times. The prophecies speak of a chosen one who will bring balance to the Force, he continues. But what if balance does not mean the triumph of light over darkness? What if it means the integration of both, the acceptance that creation and destruction are merely different aspects of the same eternal dance? The silence that follows this statement is profound. You can feel the weight of his words settling over the council chamber like a shroud. Even Master Yoda seems taken aback by the implications of what Qui-Gon is suggesting. Heretical thinking that borders on, Yoda finally says, his voice heavy with concern. The dark side, seductive it is, easy to mistake its whispers for wisdom. I do not speak of embracing darkness, Master Yoda, Qui-Gon replies with quiet dignity. I speak of understanding it. A healer must know disease to recognize health. A guardian must comprehend threat to provide protection. How can we bring balance to the Force if we refuse to acknowledge half of its nature? The holocron's light begins to fade, but not before you catch one final glimpse of that pivotal moment. Qui-Gon rises from his knees, his knighthood confirmed despite the Council's reservations. But in his eyes, you see the birth of a terrible burden. He has been given the freedom to walk his chosen path, but that path leads into shadows that no other Jedi has dared to explore. As the vision ends, you find yourself back in the archive chamber, the weight of what you have witnessed settling over you like a heavy cloak. The crystal in your hand has grown warm, and you realize that you are no longer merely observing these events. You are being drawn into them, becoming part of the pattern that Qui-Gon glimpsed in his youth. "This is only the beginning," Dooku says quietly. "What you have seen tonight is merely the first thread in a tapestry that spans decades. Qui-Gon's true journey, the one that led him to Naboo and his ultimate sacrifice, begins with his first mission as a knight. Are you prepared to follow that path, knowing where it leads?" You nod, understanding that you have already made your choice. The Force has brought you here for a reason, just as it guided Qui-Gon through his unconventional life. The mysteries that lie ahead may challenge everything you believe about the nature of destiny and choice, but they are mysteries that must be unraveled if the galaxy is to understand the true cost of balance. The next holocron awaits, its surface shimmering with stored memories of adventures yet to be revealed. With steady hands, you reach toward it, ready to continue your journey into the hidden depths of one of the galaxy's most enigmatic figures. The second holocron responds to your touch with a warmth that seems to spread through your entire being. As its crystalline surface begins to glow, the archive chamber dissolves around you, replaced by the verdant landscape of a world far from Coruscant's urban sprawl. You find yourself standing in a grove of ancient trees, their massive trunks reaching toward twin suns that cast everything in golden light. This is Coruscant as it was millennia ago, before the endless city consumed every trace of natural life. The Force flows here like a living river, pure and untainted by the complexities of galactic civilization. In the center of the grove stands a small temple, its architecture simple yet profound, built not by sentient hands, but grown from the living wood of the Force-sensitive trees themselves. Here, in this sacred place, you witness the true beginning of Qui-Gon Jinn's extraordinary journey. A child of no more than 5 years sits in perfect meditation posture, his small form dwarfed by the massive trees that surround him. Even at this tender age, there is something different about him, something that sets him apart from other Force-sensitive younglings. The child's breathing is deep and rhythmic, synchronized with the pulse of life that flows through the grove. His eyes are closed, but you can sense that he sees far more than those who rely on physical sight. The Force swirls around him like visible currents, drawn to his presence as if recognizing something familiar, something that has been waiting eons to manifest. "He was found here," comes a voice from behind you. You turn to see a figure emerging from the shadows between the trees, an elderly woman whose robes mark her as one of the ancient Jedi Seekers, those who dedicated their lives to finding Force-sensitive children throughout the galaxy. Her face is weathered by years of travel, but her eyes hold the wisdom of one who has seen the Force work in ways that defy understanding. "The boy was not abandoned," she continues, her voice carrying the weight of mystery. "He was placed here deliberately by someone who understood what he was destined to become. When we found him, he had been living alone in this grove for months, sustained by the Force itself, learning its secrets from teachers no academy could provide." As you watch, the child opens his eyes, and for a moment they seem to hold the depth of ancient stars. He looks directly at you, across the centuries that separate your time from his, and you realize that even then, young Qui-Gon possessed the ability to perceive echoes of the future. "The trees speak to me," the child says, his voice carrying an otherworldly quality. "They tell me stories of what was, what is, and what may yet come to pass." They show me rivers of light that connect all living things, and shadows that seek to break those connections. The seeker kneels beside the boy, her expression a mixture of wonder and concern. "What do the trees tell you about yourself, young one?" Qui-Gon's response chills you to the bone. "They say I am a bridge between worlds, a translator of the Force's will, but bridges must be strong enough to bear great weight, and sometimes they must be broken so that others may pass." The vision shifts, and you see the same child now within the Jedi Temple, struggling to adapt to the structured environment that seems so foreign after his years of natural communion with the Force. Other younglings his age practice their lessons with eager enthusiasm, but Qui-Gon often sits apart, his attention drawn to things others cannot see. Master Yoda, already ancient, even in these distant days, observes the boy with particular interest. The Grand Master has seen many younglings come and go, but never one who carried such a profound connection to the living Force. During lightsaber training, while other children struggle with basic forms, Qui-Gon moves with fluid grace, his blade following patterns that seem to emerge from the Force itself rather than from memorized techniques. Troubled, "This one's path will be," Yoda murmurs to himself, watching as young Qui-Gon pauses mid-form, his head tilted, as if listening to voices others cannot hear. Great potential he possesses, but great danger also surrounds him. The danger becomes apparent during a routine meditation session. While other younglings seek the calm stillness taught by their instructors, Qui-Gon's meditation takes a different form. His consciousness expands outward, touching the minds of every living being in the temple, then reaching further still into the vast network of life that encompasses entire star systems. Suddenly, the boy's eyes snap open, and he cries out in terror. "The darkness is coming. I can see it growing, spreading like a cancer through the galaxy's heart. It wears the face of order, but beneath that mask lies only hunger and hate." The vision he describes is fragmented but terrifying. A figure in a dark hood commanding legions of identical soldiers, Jedi falling by the thousands, their lights extinguished by betrayal from within. The Republic itself transformed into an instrument of oppression, its noble ideals corrupted by the very evil it sought to oppose. The other younglings are frightened by his outburst, but the masters who witness it are deeply troubled. How can a child of 8 years see so clearly into a future that wise masters cannot perceive? And more importantly, what does his ability to glimpse such darkness say about his own potential for both light and shadow? Master Dooku, still young himself in these ancient days, takes special interest in the boy's development. Even then, there were signs of the philosophical questions that would later drive him to seek answers in dangerous places. He sees in Qui-Gon a kindred spirit, someone who questions the established order, not from rebellion but from a genuine desire to understand the deeper truths of the Force. The boy sees too much. Dooku confides to Yoda, after observing one of Qui-Gon's more disturbing visions. Perhaps it would be better if his sight were limited. There are techniques, ways to shield a mind from unwanted perceptions. Yoda's response is immediate and firm. "Blind the boy, we cannot, chosen by the Force, he has been, for purposes we do not yet understand. Trust in the Force we must even when its wisdom seems cruel." The holocron shows you glimpses of Qui-Gon's training during these formative years. Unlike other Padawans who learn through repetition and discipline, he absorbs knowledge through direct communion with the Force. He can spend hours in meditation, his consciousness traveling to distant worlds, learning from the experiences of creatures he has never met. His connection to the living Force manifests in unusual ways. Plants grow more vibrantly in his presence. Injured animals are drawn to him, finding healing in his touch. Even the temple's crystals resonate differently when he is near, their harmonics shifting to match the unique frequency of his Force signature. But perhaps most disturbing of all are the moments when young Qui-Gon seems to communicate with beings that others cannot perceive. He is found speaking quietly in empty corridors, his words directed at invisible companions who seem to respond with voices only he can hear. "Who are you talking to?" asks another youngling during one such incident. Qui-Gon's answer is matter-of-fact, as if the question itself is strange. "The old ones, the Jedi who came before, they never really left. You know, they're always here waiting to share their wisdom with those who know how to listen." The masters who oversee his training are divided in their opinions. Some see his abilities as a gift that should be nurtured and developed. Others view them as dangerous deviations that threaten the stability of Jedi tradition. The debates that rage in the council chambers during these years will echo through decades, shaping the attitudes that will eventually lead to the philosophical divide between Qui-Gon and the orthodox Jedi teachings. As the vision within the holocron begins to fade, you see one final image that will haunt your dreams. Young Qui-Gon, barely into his teens, kneeling in the temple's deepest meditation chamber. Around him the very air seems to shimmer with power, and for a moment you glimpse the shadowy forms of ancient Jedi Masters, their ghostly presence offering guidance to the boy who would one day join their eternal ranks. "The Force has chosen you for a purpose greater than yourself," one of the spectral figures whispers, "but the path to that purpose leads through darkness deeper than any Jedi has faced. Are you prepared to walk that path, knowing the price it will demand?" The boy's response is given without hesitation, his voice carrying the weight of destiny itself. "I am ready to serve the Force in whatever way it requires, even if that service costs me everything." The holocron's light dims, leaving you in the relative darkness of the archive chamber. Your hands are trembling as you set it aside, the weight of what you have witnessed settling over you like a shroud. Qui-Gon's extraordinary abilities were not learned skills but inherent gifts, manifestations of a connection to the Force so profound that it transcended traditional understanding. Dooku's presence beside you provides a steadying influence as you process the implications of what you have seen. "Now you begin to understand," he says softly. Qui-Gon was never meant to be an ordinary Jedi. From his earliest days, the Force marked him as something more, something that would challenge every assumption about the nature of destiny and choice. The third holocron pulses with a different energy, its surface marked with symbols that seem to shift and change as you watch. When you activate it, the familiar sensation of temporal displacement washes over you, but this time the transition is more jarring, as if the Force itself is reluctant to reveal what lies within. You find yourself in a council chamber, but not the one you know from the temple on Coruscant. This is older, more primitive, carved from living stone deep within a mountain on some forgotten world. The Masters gathered here wear robes of a different cut, their faces bearing the weathered look of those who have spent their lives on the frontier between civilization and the unknown. At the center of the chamber stands Qui-Gon Jinn, no longer the child you witnessed in the previous vision, but not yet the master he would become. He is perhaps 25 years old, his hair still brown, without the gray that would later mark his features, but his eyes already carry the weight of knowledge that sets him apart from his peers. "The reports are troubling," says the eldest of the Masters, his voice carrying the authority of centuries. "Your methods on Malastare were unconventional. The planetary government specifically requested that no Jedi ever return to their world." Qui-Gon's response is calm, measured, but you can sense the undercurrent of frustration that runs beneath his words. "The conflict was resolved, Master. The warring factions agreed to peace, and the suffering of millions was ended. Should I have allowed the bloodshed to continue simply because the solution did not follow traditional diplomatic protocols?" "The solution," another Master interjects, "involved you somehow convincing both sides that their ancestors were speaking to them through the Force. Such manipulation of religious beliefs borders on the dark side, young Jinn." The accusation hangs in the air like a blade poised to strike. You can feel the tension in the chamber, the way the other masters shift uncomfortably in their seats. This is clearly not the first time Qui-Gon's methods have been called into question, and it will not be the last. "I did not manipulate anything," Qui-Gon replies, his voice steady despite the gravity of the charge. "I simply helped them hear what was already there. The Force connects all living things, including those who have passed beyond the physical realm. If their ancestors' spirits chose to speak through me, who am I to deny them that communion?" The eldest master leans forward, his ancient eyes studying Qui-Gon with the intensity of one who has seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "You claim to speak with the dead, young Jinn. Such abilities have been reported in Jedi of the past, but they are rare and dangerous. How do you know that the voices you hear are truly those of the departed and not echoes of the dark side, seeking to corrupt your judgment?" It is a fair question, one that cuts to the heart of the mystery that surrounds Qui-Gon's extraordinary abilities. You watch as he considers his response, his connection to the Force deepening, as he seeks the wisdom to explain what may be unexplainable. "I know, because I have learned to distinguish between the whispers of light and shadow," he says finally. "The voices of the true dead carry with them the peace of the Force, the accumulated wisdom of lives lived in service to others. The dark side speaks only of power and domination, of taking rather than giving. The difference is as clear as the distinction between sunlight and shadow." The explanation seems to satisfy some of the masters, but others remain skeptical. You can see the divide that is forming, the philosophical gulf that will eventually separate Qui-Gon from the mainstream of Jedi thought. To some, his abilities represent a dangerous deviation from established doctrine. To others, they are simply the natural evolution of Force sensitivity, no more threatening than exceptional skill with a lightsaber. "There is another matter," the eldest master continues, his voice growing more grave. "Your report mentions that you spent 3 days in deep meditation within the sacred caves of Malastare. During that time you claim to have received visions of future events. Can you elaborate on the nature of these visions?" Qui-Gon's hesitation is subtle but noticeable. You sense that he is weighing his words carefully, aware that some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud. "I saw fragments of possible futures," he says finally. "Glimpses of events that may come to pass if certain choices are made. The Force showed me the consequences of action and inaction, of peace and war." "And what did these visions tell you about your own future?" another master asks, his tone carefully neutral. The question hangs in the air like a challenge. You watch as Qui-Gon's expression grows distant, his eyes taking on the unfocused quality of one who sees beyond the present moment. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of prophecy. "I saw myself standing in a place of great power, facing a choice that would determine the fate of countless worlds. I saw a young boy whose destiny was linked to mine, whose potential burned so bright it could either save the galaxy or destroy it. And I saw my own death, noble and necessary, opening a path for others to follow." The silence that follows is profound. Several of the masters exchange troubled glances, clearly disturbed by the implications of what they have heard. The ability to see one's own death is not unheard of among Jedi, but it is rare and often considered a burden too great for any single individual to bear. "Such visions can be misleading," the eldest master says gently. "The future is always in motion, shaped by the choices we make in each moment. What you saw may have been one possible path among many, not an inevitable fate." But even as he speaks the words, you can see in his eyes that he does not fully believe them. There is something about Qui-Gon's visions that carries the weight of truth, a certainty that transcends mere possibility. The Force has marked this young Jedi for a specific purpose, and that purpose will not be denied. The council session continues for hours, delving into the details of Qui-Gon's mission and the methods he employed. A pattern emerges, one that will define his entire career. Where other Jedi rely on negotiation and diplomacy, Qui-Gon trusts in the guidance of the Force. Where others seek to impose order through strength, he finds balance through understanding. Where others fear the unknown, he embraces it as a teacher. As the meeting draws to a close, the Masters reach their conclusion. Qui-Gon's methods may be unorthodox, but they are effective. His results speak for themselves, and the galaxy is a more peaceful place because of his actions. He will be allowed to continue his work, but with increased scrutiny and regular reports to the Council. "You walk a dangerous path, young Jinn," the eldest Master says as the session ends. "The line between light and shadow is thinner than most believe, and those who traffic with the mysteries of the Force must be especially careful not to lose their way." Qui-Gon's response reveals the depth of his understanding and the weight of his burden. "I am aware of the dangers, Master, but I would rather risk falling to darkness while serving the light than remain safely ignorant while the galaxy suffers. The Force has given me these gifts for a reason, and I will not waste them through cowardice or adherence to tradition." As the vision fades, you find yourself back in the archive chamber, the weight of what you have witnessed settling over you like a heavy cloak. The holocron in your hands has grown warm, its surface now marked with new symbols that seem to pulse with life. Dooku's presence beside you provides a steadying influence as you process the implications of what you have seen. "The Council's conclusion was reasonable," he says softly. "Qui-Gon's abilities were extraordinary, but they assumed they understood their nature. They believed his connection to the Force was simply stronger than most, his intuition more refined. They could not imagine that he was actually communing with beings beyond the physical realm." "But you knew better," you say, turning to face him. His smile is sad, tinged with the weight of regret. "I suspected." There were moments when Qui-Gon would pause in conversation as if listening to voices I could not hear. Times when he would change course based on information that had no apparent source. The Council chose to interpret these incidents as evidence of exceptional Force sensitivity, rather than something more unprecedented. And that false conclusion shaped everything that followed, you realize. Indeed, by misunderstanding the true nature of Qui-Gon's gifts, the Council failed to provide him with the guidance he needed to navigate the dangerous waters ahead. They treated him as a talented but wayward student rather than a conduit for forces beyond their comprehension. It was a mistake that would have consequences throughout the galaxy. The next holocron awaits, its surface shimmering with the promise of deeper revelations. As you reach for it, you can feel the weight of destiny pressing down upon you, the same burden that Qui-Gon carried throughout his life. The false conclusion has been revealed, but the true mystery still lies ahead, waiting to be unraveled by those brave enough to seek the truth. The fourth holocron responds to your touch with a resonance that seems to echo through the very foundations of the temple. As its light spreads through the chamber, you feel yourself drawn not just into another vision, but into a deeper understanding of the pattern that governed Qui-Gon's life from his earliest days as a Padawan. The scene that unfolds before you is one of confusion and concern. You stand in the council chambers, but the atmosphere is heavy with debate and uncertainty. 5 different Jedi Masters sit around the circular table, their faces bearing expressions of frustration and bewilderment. At the center of their discussion is a file, a record of a young Padawan who has proven impossible to train by conventional methods. "This makes the 4th Master in as many years," says Master Vrock, his voice carrying the weight of administrative burden. Master Keleth lasted barely 6 months before requesting a transfer. Master Nomi lasted even less time. They all report the same phenomenon. The boy seems to know things he should not know, to see connections that do not exist. The boy in question is Qui-Gon Jinn, now 16 years old, and bearing the lean build of adolescence, but already showing signs of the commanding presence he would later possess. His current master, a patient woman named Lyra Sunrider, sits across from the council with an expression of weary determination. "Masters," she begins, her voice respectful but firm, "I believe we are approaching this situation incorrectly. Young Qui-Gon is not defying our teachings out of arrogance or rebellion. He is simply operating on a level of force sensitivity that our traditional methods cannot accommodate." "Explain," Master Yoda says, his ancient eyes studying the woman with interest. Master Sunrider takes a breath, choosing her words carefully. "During our meditation sessions, Qui-Gon does not simply quiet his mind as we teach. His consciousness expands, touching the minds and experiences of beings across vast distances. He learns not through repetition and memorization, but through direct communion with the Force itself." "Such abilities," Master Windu interjects, his tone carrying a note of concern, "have been documented in Jedi of the past, but they are rare and often associated with instability. The mind that opens too widely to the Force risks being overwhelmed by its vastness." The debate that follows reveals the fundamental challenge that Qui-Gon's abilities present to the Jedi Order. His connection to the Force is so profound that it transcends the boundaries of conventional training. Where other Padawans learn to sense the emotions of those around them, Qui-Gon experiences the full spectrum of their consciousness. Where others might glimpse possible futures during meditation, he sees the intricate web of cause and effect that connects all events across time. "There was an incident last week," Master Sunrider continues. "We were studying the ancient texts in the archive, focusing on the philosophical foundations of Jedi ethics. Qui-Gon suddenly began speaking in a language none of us recognized. When questioned, he claimed that the author of the text we were studying had appeared to him and was offering commentary on his own work. The silence that follows this revelation is profound. The masters exchange glances that speak of concerns deeper than mere academic irregularity. The ability to commune with the spirits of the dead is not unknown among Jedi, but it is exceedingly rare and often viewed with suspicion by those who worry about the thin line between light and shadow." "And you believe this actually occurred?" Master Vrock asks, his skepticism evident. "I do not know what to believe," Master Sunrider admits. "But I can tell you that Qui-Gon's understanding of the text after this incident was deeper and more nuanced than that of masters who had studied it for decades. Either he is an unprecedented genius, or he is indeed receiving instruction from sources beyond our understanding." The vision shifts, and you see Qui-Gon himself, seated in one of the temple's smaller meditation chambers. He is alone, his posture relaxed but alert, his breathing deep and rhythmic. Around him, the air seems to shimmer with barely visible energy, and you realize that you are witnessing one of his communion sessions firsthand. "Master Kenth," Qui-Gon says softly, speaking to someone invisible to physical sight, "I understand the principle you are teaching, but I struggle with its application. How does one balance compassion with justice when the two seem to demand opposite actions?" The response comes not as words, but as a flow of understanding directly into Qui-Gon's consciousness. You watch as his expression changes, enlightenment dawning in his eyes, as concepts that have puzzled philosophers for millennia become clear through direct transmission of wisdom. "I see," he whispers. "Compassion and justice are not opposites but different aspects of the same truth. The challenge lies not in choosing between them, but in finding the path that honors both." The conversation continues for hours, covering topics that range from the practical application of Force techniques to the deepest mysteries of existence itself. You realize that Qui-Gon's education extends far beyond what any single master could provide. He is learning from the accumulated wisdom of centuries, guided by Jedi who have transcended physical death to continue their service to the Force. But this unprecedented gift comes with a price. The vision shows you the toll that such constant communion takes on the young Padawan. He often appears distracted during conventional lessons, his attention divided between the physical world and the realm of spirit. His fellow Padawans find him strange and difficult to understand, his insights coming from sources they cannot perceive. The boy is brilliant. Master Sunrider confides to Master Yoda during a private conversation. His understanding of the Force surpasses that of knights twice his age. But he is also isolated, cut off from his peers by the very gifts that make him exceptional. I fear that his loneliness may become a vulnerability that the dark side could exploit. Master Yoda's response reveals the depth of his concern. Dangerous such isolation can be. Strong with the Force young Qui-Gon is, but the Force flows through all living things. Cut off from connection with others, even the strongest can fall to shadow. The solution they devise is both simple and profound. Rather than trying to force Qui-Gon into the mold of conventional Padawan training, they will allow him to learn in his own way while providing the guidance and support he needs to remain grounded in the light. Master Sunrider will continue as his primary instructor, but she will be assisted by a rotating group of masters, each offering their own perspective on the challenges he faces. The results of this approach are remarkable. Freed from the constraints of traditional methods, Qui-Gon's abilities flourish. He develops techniques that combine ancient wisdom with innovative application, creating new forms of Force use that expand the boundaries of what is possible. His lightsaber skills evolve beyond conventional forms, his blade moving in patterns that seem to echo the very rhythms of the Force itself. But perhaps most importantly, he learns to maintain his connection to the living world while communing with the spiritual realm. The ghostly masters who guide him teach him not just about the Force, but about the importance of remaining anchored in the present moment, of serving the needs of the living rather than becoming lost in the wisdom of the dead. The greatest danger, one of these spiritual guides explains during a particularly intense session, is not that you will fall to the dark side, but that you will become so focused on the cosmic perspective that you lose sight of individual suffering. The Force is vast and eternal, but it manifests through the actions of individual beings. Your gift allows you to see the great pattern, but you must never forget that the pattern is made up of countless small choices made by countless individuals. This lesson becomes central to Qui-Gon's philosophy. Throughout his later career, he will be known for his ability to see the grand sweep of galactic events while never losing sight of the personal costs involved. His decisions are guided by cosmic wisdom, but they are always tempered by compassion for those who will be affected by the consequences. As the vision continues, you see Qui-Gon's progression from confused adolescent to confident young adult. His relationship with Master Sunrider deepens into one of mutual respect and genuine affection. She learns from him even as she teaches him, her own understanding of the Force expanding through exposure to his unique perspective. "You have taught me as much as I have taught you," she tells him on the day of his trials. "Your gift is not just a personal ability, but a treasure that belongs to the entire order. Use it wisely, and remember that great power brings great responsibility." The trials themselves are unlike any recorded in Jedi history, where other Padawans face physical challenges and tests of knowledge. Qui-Gon's trials take place primarily in the realm of spirit. He must navigate the complex relationships between the living and the dead, demonstrating that he can commune with ancient masters without losing his own identity or purpose. The final trial is the most challenging. He must face a powerful dark spirit, one that has been drawn to the temple by the very abilities that make him special. The entity attempts to deceive him, claiming to be a fallen Jedi Master who can teach him secrets that the living cannot provide. The temptation is enormous, for the spirit offers knowledge that could revolutionize the Jedi Order's understanding of the Force. But Qui-Gon has learned to distinguish between the whispers of light and shadow. he recognizes the dark spirit for what it is, and with the help of his genuine spiritual guides, banishes it from the temple. The victory establishes him not just as a knight of unusual ability, but as a guardian capable of protecting others from the very dangers his gifts might attract. As the holocron's light begins to fade, you see one final image that will remain with you long after the vision ends. Qui-Gon, now a newly ordained knight, kneeling in meditation surrounded by the ghostly forms of dozens of ancient masters. Their presence is both blessing and burden, a reminder that his path will always be different from that of other Jedi, but also a promise that he will never walk that path alone. The question that haunts you as the vision ends is whether this extraordinary support system will be enough to guide him through the trials that lie ahead, or whether his unique gifts will ultimately lead him to a destiny that even the wisdom of the ages cannot prevent. The fifth holocron emanates a different energy entirely, one that seems to pulse with secrets long buried beneath layers of Jedi orthodoxy. As you activate it, the familiar sensation of temporal displacement carries with it an undercurrent of warning, as if the Force itself hesitates to reveal what lies within these particular memories. You find yourself in the deepest vaults of the Jedi Temple, far below the familiar archives where younglings study approved texts. These chambers exist in a state of perpetual twilight, illuminated only by the soft glow of containment fields that surround forbidden artifacts and dangerous knowledge. The air here carries the weight of centuries, thick with the accumulated wisdom and warnings of those who came before. Qui-Gon Jinn moves through these shadows like a man walking through his own destiny. He is now 30 years old, a full knight with several successful missions behind him, yet his hunger for understanding has only grown with experience. The conventional teachings of the Jedi Academy have proven insufficient to explain the visions that continue to plague his meditations, the voices that whisper truths the Council refuses to acknowledge. Before him lies a collection of texts that officially do not exist. These are the records of the Wills, ancient chroniclers who served as the Force's living memory long before the Jedi Order established its first temple. Their writings speak of realities that challenge every assumption about the nature of life, death, and the cosmic balance that governs all existence. These should not be here, Qui-Gon murmurs to himself, his fingers tracing the ethereal script that seems to shift and change as he watches. The Council ordered all Will artifacts destroyed after the Ruusan campaign. Yet here they are, preserved in secret by masters who understood that some knowledge, however dangerous, must not be lost. The Force has guided him to this place, just as it guided the ancient keepers who chose to defy the Council's decree, rather than allow irreplaceable wisdom to vanish forever. The first text he examines speaks of the cosmic force, in terms that make his breath catch in his throat, where Jedi teachings describe the Force as an energy field that binds the galaxy together. The Wills write of it as a conscious entity, a vast intelligence that experiences existence through the lives of countless beings across infinite realities. The Force does not merely flow through all things, he reads aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. It is all things, and all things are expressions of its infinite creativity. What mortals perceive as individual consciousness is merely a single note in a symphony of existence that spans dimensions beyond counting. The implications are staggering. If the Wills are correct, then every choice made by every sentient being contributes to the Force's ongoing evolution. Free will is not an illusion, but neither is destiny. They exist in perfect balance, each individual decision rippling through the cosmic consciousness in ways that shape reality itself. Another text details the nature of what the Wills call Force echoes, the remnants of consciousness that persist after physical death. According to their writings, these echoes are not merely memories or imprints, but actual fragments of the departed spirit that retain the ability to think, feel, and interact with the living world. The ghostly masters who have guided Qui-Gon throughout his life are not illusions or wishful thinking, but genuine manifestations of this phenomenon. The boundary between life and death, the text continues, is far more permeable than most beings realize. Those who achieve sufficient harmony with the Force during their physical existence can maintain coherent consciousness after the dissolution of their mortal form. They become eternal servants of the cosmic force, guides and teachers for those still walking the path of flesh. Qui-Gon's hands tremble as he reads these words, for they validate everything he has experienced since childhood. The voices that speak to him in meditation, the ancient wisdom that flows through his consciousness during moments of crisis, the sense of being watched and guided by invisible presences, are all manifestations of this deeper reality. But the will texts contain warnings, as well as revelations. They speak of dangers that await those who delve too deeply into the mysteries of existence without proper preparation. The mind that opens itself fully to the cosmic force risks being overwhelmed by the vastness of universal consciousness. Individuals who lose themselves in cosmic perspective may become detached from the immediate needs of the living, their compassion diluted by an understanding so vast that individual suffering becomes insignificant. This is why the Council fears such knowledge. Qui-Gon realizes, his understanding deepening with each page he studies, not because it is false, but because it is too true for most minds to safely contain. The chamber around him seems to pulse with agreement, the containment fields flickering as if responding to his growing comprehension. He is crossing a threshold here, moving from the realm of conventional Jedi knowledge into territory that few have explored and fewer still have survived unchanged. The most disturbing text he discovers deals with the concept of prophetic convergence, the phenomenon by which certain individuals become focal points for the Force's will. According to the wills, these chosen few are granted extraordinary perception and power, but only because their destinies are so crucial to the cosmic balance that the Force itself intervenes to ensure their success. The convergent one, the text explains, exists at the intersection of multiple possible futures. Their choices do not merely affect their own fate, but determine which of countless potential realities will manifest. They are both blessed and cursed, for their burden is proportional to their importance. The greater their role in shaping destiny, the more they must sacrifice to fulfill it. The description fits Qui-Gon's own experience with terrifying accuracy. His visions have always shown him multiple possible futures, his choices seeming to tip the balance between outcomes that could save or doom entire civilizations. The weight of such responsibility has been his constant companion, a burden he has borne in solitude because few others could understand its magnitude. As he continues reading, patterns begin to emerge that connect his personal experiences to larger cosmic cycles. The wills write of recurring epochs in galactic history, periods when the balance between light and dark shifts dramatically. These transitions are always marked by the appearance of individuals whose exceptional connection to the Force allows them to serve as catalysts for change. The chosen one of whom the ancient prophecies speak, he reads with growing amazement, is not a single individual but an archetype that manifests repeatedly throughout history. Each iteration appears when the cosmic balance requires dramatic correction, their arrival heralding a new age of either enlightenment or shadow. The realization hits him like a physical blow. The boy he has been seeing in his visions, the child whose destiny burns so brightly it could transform the galaxy, is not unique but part of an eternal pattern. There have been other chosen ones before, and there will be others after. Each one faces the same fundamental choice between salvation and destruction, their decision determining the fate of their era. But perhaps the most profound revelation comes in the text's final chapters, which deal with the concept of sacrificial transcendence. The wills describe a process by which individuals can willingly surrender their physical existence to achieve a higher state of being, their consciousness merging with the cosmic force while retaining their individual identity. Death becomes transformation, the text explains, when one chooses to serve the greater good above personal survival. The spirit that releases its attachment to mortal form while maintaining its commitment to the light achieves immortality of the most meaningful kind. It becomes a bridge between the realms of matter and energy, capable of guiding and protecting those who continue the eternal struggle. As Qui-Gon absorbs these words, his own prophetic vision suddenly makes sense. The death he has foreseen is not an ending, but a beginning. A transition to a form of existence that will allow him to serve the Force more fully than physical life permits. The sacrifice he has glimpsed is not meaningless suffering, but the ultimate expression of his commitment to the light. The weight of this understanding settles over him like a mantle, heavy with responsibility yet somehow comforting. He has always felt different, isolated by gifts that set him apart from other Jedi. Now he understands that this isolation was preparation, training for a role that requires absolute dedication to principles larger than individual desires. The forbidden texts contain one final secret, one that explains why the Council chose to suppress them, rather than integrate their wisdom into mainstream Jedi teaching. The wills write of a coming darkness so profound that it will test every assumption about the nature of good and evil. They speak of a time when the light itself will seem to fail, when hope becomes an act of rebellion against overwhelming despair. In that darkest hour, the text concludes, the Force will call upon its most devoted servants to make the ultimate sacrifice. Some will fall in battle, their lights extinguished while defending the innocent. Others will surrender themselves to transformation, becoming eternal guardians for future generations. All will face the choice between personal survival and universal salvation. As the holocron's light begins to fade, Qui-Gon carefully returns the will texts to their places, understanding now why they were preserved despite official prohibition. The knowledge they contain is dangerous, but it is also necessary. The coming trials will require leaders who understand the true scope of what they face, who can make decisions based on cosmic rather than merely personal considerations. The young knight who entered these chambers was searching for answers to troubling questions. The man who emerges carries the weight of terrible knowledge, but also the strength that comes from understanding one's true purpose. He knows now that his path leads inevitably towards sacrifice, but he also knows that such sacrifice serves a purpose greater than any individual life. The Force has prepared him for what is to come, and he will not falter when the moment of choice arrives. The sixth holocron pulses with an energy so profound that the very air around it seems to vibrate with life. As you activate this repository of memories, you feel yourself drawn not into a specific place or time, but into the flowing current of the Force itself. The chamber around you fades, replaced by a realm where thought and reality merge, where the boundaries between past, present, and future become meaningless. You find yourself floating in a space that defies description, surrounded by streams of light that carry within them the essence of every living thing that has ever existed. This is the domain of the living force, the aspect of cosmic energy that flows through all organic life, connecting every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of consciousness across the galaxy. At the center of this infinite web stands Qui-Gon Jinn, but not as you have seen him before. This is Qui-Gon at the moment of his greatest awakening, when the full nature of his connection to the Force finally revealed itself. He appears to be in his mid-30s, his features bearing the wisdom of experience, but also the wonder of someone discovering truths that reshape his understanding of existence itself. Around him the streams of living energy pulse and flow in patterns that speak of intelligence beyond mortal comprehension. Each thread represents a different form of life, from the smallest microorganism to the most complex sentient being. But these are not mere representations, they are the actual life forces themselves, accessible to consciousness expanded enough to perceive them. "I can hear them all," Qui-Gon whispers, his voice carrying across the dimensional space with perfect clarity. Every living thing in the galaxy, their voices joined in a chorus of existence that never ceases, never falters. They speak of birth and death, of joy and sorrow, of the eternal dance between creation and dissolution. The revelation that flows through him in this moment is transformative, where other Jedi learn to sense the Force as an external energy that can be channeled and directed. Qui-Gon discovers that he is not separate from it at all. His consciousness has become a focal point where the living force can observe itself, understand itself, speak through a mortal voice to guide the evolution of cosmic awareness. The experience is overwhelming in its intensity. Billions of voices flow through his expanded consciousness, each one carrying its own story, its own dreams and fears and hopes. He experiences the final moments of stars as they collapse into neutron density, the first breaths of newborn creatures on worlds he has never seen, the last thoughts of ancient beings whose civilizations flourished and faded before his homeworld even formed. But within this vast symphony of existence, certain voices stand out with particular clarity. These are the echoes of beings who achieved such profound harmony with the Force during their lifetimes that their consciousness has become permanent fixtures in the cosmic web. They are the spiritual guides who have watched over him since childhood, the ancient masters whose wisdom transcends the limitations of physical form. Child of prophecy, one of these eternal voices speaks directly into his awareness. The time has come for you to understand your true nature. You are not merely a Jedi who serves the Force, you are a living expression of the Force's will to know itself more completely. The implications of this revelation ripple through Qui-Gon's consciousness like waves across still water. He has always felt different from other Force users, blessed and burdened with abilities that seem to operate outside the normal parameters of Jedi training. Now he understands why. He is not using the Force so much as allowing it to use him, becoming a conduit through which cosmic intelligence can interact directly with the material realm. The living Force flows through all things, another spiritual guide explains. But in most beings its voice is filtered through layers of ego, fear, and attachment. Your consciousness has been shaped from birth to minimize these obstacles, creating a clear channel through which the Force can speak without distortion. As this understanding deepens, Qui-Gon begins to perceive the vast pattern that underlies all galactic events. Wars and peace, the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of individuals, all are part of an incomprehensibly complex design that serves the Force's ongoing evolution. Free will exists within this pattern, but it operates in harmony with cosmic necessity rather than in opposition to it. The visions that have plagued his meditations throughout his life suddenly make perfect sense. He has not been seeing possible futures so much as perceiving the Force's intent, the direction in which cosmic evolution is naturally flowing. His role is not to prevent or alter these events, but to ensure that they unfold in ways that serve the highest good for all life. The darkness that approaches, the spiritual guides continue, is necessary for the light to evolve. Shadow and illumination define each other, each giving meaning to the other. Your generation of Jedi will face trials that test every assumption about the nature of good and evil, but these trials are not punishment. They are opportunities for consciousness to transcend its current limitations. Through the expanded awareness granted by this awakening, Qui-Gon perceives the cosmic forces already aligning for the conflicts to come. On distant worlds, children are being born who will become key players in the drama ahead. Political movements are forming that will reshape the galactic government. Ancient evils are stirring in the shadows, preparing to challenge the light in ways that will force it to evolve or perish. But perhaps most significantly, he sees the boy, The child whose destiny has haunted his visions appears now not as a distant possibility, but as an immediate reality. Somewhere in the galaxy, a young slave dreams of freedom while power beyond imagination sleeps within his cells. The convergence of circumstances that will bring them together is already in motion, guided by the same cosmic intelligence that speaks through Qui-Gon's expanded consciousness. The Chosen One, the spiritual guide's whisper, will face the ultimate test of balance. He will have the power to save or destroy everything that exists, and his choice will determine not just the fate of your galaxy, but the direction of the Force's evolution for eons to come. The weight of this knowledge is staggering, but Qui-Gon finds strength in understanding his role within the vast pattern. He is not responsible for controlling the outcome. His purpose is to guide and protect the Chosen One until the moment of ultimate choice arrives. After that, the fate of everything will rest in younger hands, shaped by decisions that transcend the power of any single individual to predetermine. As the vision continues, Qui-Gon experiences something that no other Jedi in recorded history has achieved. His consciousness merges temporarily with the cosmic force itself, allowing him to perceive existence from the perspective of universal intelligence. In that moment of absolute unity, he understands truths that will guide his actions for the remainder of his physical life. He sees that death is not an ending, but a transformation, a shedding of limitations that allows consciousness to serve the Force more completely. He understands that suffering serves a purpose in the cosmic design, not as punishment, but as catalyst for growth and evolution. Most importantly, he realizes that love is not the weakness the Jedi Code suggests, but the fundamental force that drives all positive evolution in the universe. Attachment to outcomes brings suffering. The universal consciousness speaks through his awareness. But love itself is the energy that connects all things. The Jedi have confused possessive desire with genuine love, creating rules that limit their ability to serve the greater good. These revelations will shape Qui-Gon's approach to training his future Padawan, his willingness to defy the Council when their rules conflict with cosmic necessity, and ultimately his readiness to sacrifice himself when the Force demands such service. He has been transformed from a questioning knight into a conscious agent of cosmic will, fully aware of his purpose and completely committed to fulfilling it. As the awakening reaches its climax, Qui-Gon feels his expanded consciousness beginning to contract back toward normal human awareness. The universal perspective fades, but the knowledge remains integrated into his being at levels too deep for forgetting. He will carry this understanding with him always, a source of strength and wisdom that will guide him through the trials ahead. The final moment of the vision shows him standing alone in a simple meditation chamber, his physical form unmarked by the profound transformation he has undergone. To external observation, he appears unchanged. But within his consciousness, the living force now flows with perfect clarity, and his connection to the cosmic web of existence has become unbreakable. He has become what the ancient text described as a perfect conduit, a being through whom the Force can act directly in the material realm, without distortion or limitation. The boy who first heard the Force speak through trees has evolved into a man through whom the Force itself can touch the world, shaping events according to the vast intelligence that governs all existence. The awakening is complete, and the stage is set for the final act of a cosmic drama that will determine the future of everything that lives and breathes throughout the galaxy. The seventh holocron resonates with a deeper, more melancholic energy than those that came before. As its light fills the chamber, you sense that you are about to witness the most challenging period of Qui-Gon's journey, the years when his extraordinary gifts became both blessing and burden in ways that would test the very foundations of his faith. The vision that unfolds transports you to the windswept plains of Dantooine, where ancient ruins dot the landscape like sleeping giants beneath twin moons. This world has long served as a refuge for Jedi seeking solitude for deep meditation, its Force-sensitive crystals and peaceful atmosphere providing ideal conditions for contemplation. Here, in a simple hermitage built among the ruins of a civilization lost to time, Qui-Gon Jinn has come to wrestle with the greatest challenge any Jedi can face. He sits in perfect stillness before a small fire, his weathered features illuminated by dancing flames that cast shifting shadows on the stone walls around him. At 45 years of age, he has achieved the rank of Master and undertaken dozens of successful missions throughout the galaxy. But success in the traditional sense has brought him no peace, for his unique gifts have isolated him in ways that grow more profound with each passing year. The burden he carries is not merely the weight of cosmic knowledge, though that alone would be sufficient to crush a lesser spirit. It is the terrible loneliness of being the only voice speaking truths that others cannot hear, the only consciousness capable of perceiving patterns that span centuries, while those around him struggle to understand the implications of immediate events. Master Dooku was right to warn me, he murmurs to the flames, his voice carrying the weight of accumulated wisdom and sorrow. The path of the living force is not meant to be walked alone, yet I find myself increasingly isolated by the very gifts that should connect me to all life. The spiritual guides who have counseled him since childhood materialize around the fire, their ghostly forms shimmering in the flickering light. But even their presence cannot fully alleviate the isolation he feels, for they speak from the perspective of beings who have transcended physical existence. They understand the cosmic patterns he perceives, but they cannot share the burden of living those patterns in flesh and blood. The greatest challenge facing those who serve as conduits for the Force, one of the ancient masters explains, is maintaining connection to individual lives while perceiving universal truths. The temptation is always present to withdraw from personal relationships, to view the struggles of individual beings as insignificant compared to cosmic necessities. This temptation has become Qui-Gon's constant companion. During his recent missions, he has found himself making decisions based on knowledge that comes from his communion with the Force rather than conventional diplomatic wisdom. His success rate remains high, but his methods have become increasingly unorthodox, setting him further apart from his fellow Jedi and creating friction with the Council. The fire before him flickers as a night wind sweeps across the plains, and in its dancing flames he sees echoes of the visions that have shaped his understanding of what lies ahead. The boy whose destiny burns so brightly still appears to him regularly in meditation, but now Qui-Gon can perceive the terrible cost that such potential will exact not just on the child himself, but on everyone whose life he touches. "I see the paths that branch before him," Qui-Gon whispers to his spiritual counselors. In some timelines, he becomes the salvation of the galaxy, bringing balance to the Force and ushering in an age of unprecedented peace. In others, he becomes the instrument of destruction, his power corrupted by fear and anger, until even the light itself cannot reach him. The weight of this knowledge presses down upon him like a physical force. He has been chosen to guide and protect this child, to help shape the circumstances that will influence which path the boy ultimately chooses. But the responsibility is overwhelming, made worse by the understanding that his own actions will play a crucial role in determining the outcome. How does one prepare to train a being whose potential surpasses that of every Jedi who has ever lived? He asks the eternal masters who watch over him, "What wisdom can I offer to someone whose connection to the Force will dwarf my own?" The answer comes not in words, but in a flow of understanding that fills his consciousness like warm light. His role will not be to teach the boy to use his power. That knowledge will come naturally to one born with such extraordinary gifts. Instead, Qui-Gon must help him understand the nature of choice itself, the delicate balance between destiny and free will that determines the difference between salvation and damnation. The Chosen One will face temptations that no previous Jedi has encountered, the spiritual guides explain. His power will make him believe he can control outcomes that should be left to the Force. Your task is to model the wisdom of surrender, to show him that true strength comes not from imposing one's will upon the universe, but from aligning oneself with cosmic necessity. As the night deepens around his solitary hermitage, Qui-Gon contemplates the paradox that has defined his entire life. He has been granted extraordinary perception precisely because his destiny requires him to make choices that will affect the fate of the galaxy. Yet the more clearly he sees the cosmic patterns, the more he understands that individual agency operates within boundaries set by forces beyond mortal comprehension. The flames in his fire pit settle into steady hypnotic patterns, and in their glow he perceives another vision. This time, he sees himself not as a young man wrestling with cosmic truths, but as an older figure standing in a technological chamber filled with energy barriers and humming machinery. Across from him stands a figure cloaked in shadow, a presence that radiates hatred and hunger for power. My own end approaches, he realizes with the calm acceptance that comes from true understanding. The Force shows me this not to inspire fear or regret, but to prepare me for the role I must play in the larger pattern. The vision reveals the manner of his death with perfect clarity. He will fall in battle against a servant of the dark side, but his sacrifice will serve a purpose that extends far beyond the immediate circumstances. His passing will create the conditions necessary for his Padawan to train the Chosen One, while his transformation into a Force spirit will allow him to continue guiding events from beyond the physical realm. Death becomes transformation, he murmurs, echoing the words of the ancient will texts he studied in secret years before. What appears to be ending is merely a change in the nature of service. The spiritual masters around him pulse with approval and encouragement. They have all walked this same path, faced this same terrible knowledge of their own mortality, while maintaining faith in the greater purpose it serves. Their presence reminds him that he is not truly alone, that he is part of an eternal brotherhood of beings who have chosen to serve the Force completely, regardless of personal cost. As dawn begins to break over the Dantooine plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Qui-Gon feels a profound shift in his understanding. The burden he has carried for so long remains, but it has been transformed from crushing weight into sacred responsibility. He does not serve the Force despite the isolation and sacrifice. It demands he serves it because such service represents the highest expression of conscious love. The boy he will train, the Padawan he will guide, the sacrifices he will make, all are part of a tapestry so beautiful and complex that mortal minds can only perceive fragments of its true magnificence. His role is crucial but small, significant but temporary, necessary but ultimately transcendent. Rising from his meditation, Qui-Gon prepares to return to the galaxy of political intrigue and looming darkness that awaits beyond Dantooine's peaceful horizons. He carries with him a deeper understanding of his purpose and a clearer vision of the path ahead. The isolation remains, but it no longer weighs upon him as heavily, for he has learned to find companionship in service itself. The Force flows through him with renewed clarity as he gathers his simple belongings and prepares his ship for departure. Somewhere in the galaxy, events are already in motion that will bring him face to face with his destiny. A young queen on a besieged world will send desperate calls for help. A Gungan outcast will stumble into circumstances that reveal his hidden courage. And on a desert world where twin suns beat down mercilessly on endless dunes, a boy dreams of freedom while power beyond imagination stirs within his blood. The Master's burden has been accepted completely, transformed from weight into wings that will carry him forward into the final chapters of his extraordinary life. The awakening is complete, the understanding achieved, and the stage set for events that will echo through the Force for generations to come. In the growing light of dawn, Qui-Gon Jinn stands as a figure transformed by acceptance of cosmic purpose, ready to play his part in the greatest drama the galaxy has ever witnessed. The burden he carries is heavy, but it is also sacred, and he would not trade it for all the peace in the universe. The eighth holocron emanates an energy that seems to resonate with the very heartbeat of destiny itself. As you activate it, the chamber around you transforms into something far more ancient and profound than the Jedi Temple archives. You find yourself standing within the ruins of the first Jedi sanctuary ever built, a place so old that its stones predate the Republic itself by millennia. Here, carved into walls that have weathered the rise and fall of countless civilizations, are the original prophecies that speak of the Chosen One. But as Qui-Gon Jinn moves through these sacred chambers, his enhanced perception reveals truths that have been hidden for eons, secrets that transform everything the Jedi believe about their most fundamental prophecy. The Master walks with the measured pace of one who knows he treads on hallowed ground. His connection to the living force has reached such profound depths that the ancient stones themselves seem to respond to his presence, their crystalline matrix awakening to emit a soft ethereal glow that illuminates hieroglyphs invisible to normal sight. The prophecy speaks of one who will bring balance to the force, Qui-Gon murmurs as he traces the ancient symbols with reverent fingers. But we have interpreted this through the lens of our own assumptions, believing that balance means the triumph of light over darkness. The spiritual guides who have watched over him throughout his life materialize more clearly here than anywhere else, their forms solidified by the concentration of force energy that saturates these ruins. They gather around him like a council of eternal wisdom, their presence both comforting and sobering. The truth speaks the ghostly form of an ancient Jedi whose name has been lost to time, is far more complex than your order has dared to imagine. The prophecy does not speak of a single individual, but of a recurring archetype that manifests when the cosmic balance requires fundamental realignment. As understanding flows through Qui-Gon's consciousness, the walls around him begin to reveal their deeper secrets. Hidden beneath the familiar prophecies are older texts, written in scripts that predate galactic civilization. These speak not of one chosen one, but of many throughout history, each appearing at critical junctures when the galaxy teetered on the edge of either enlightenment or destruction. Every few millennia, another spiritual guide explains, the Force incarnates aspects of itself in mortal form. These beings carry within them the power to radically alter the trajectory of galactic evolution. Some have used this power to elevate consciousness and expand the boundaries of what is possible. Others have allowed fear and anger to corrupt their gifts, becoming agents of devastation rather than salvation. The revelation strikes Qui-Gon with the force of cosmic lightning. The boy he has seen in his visions is not unique but part of an eternal cycle, the latest in a line of beings whose choices determine the fate of entire eras. This knowledge brings both comfort and terror, for it means that the burden of the galaxy's future does not rest on a single child's shoulders alone. Yet it also reveals the catastrophic consequences that await if this chosen one falls to darkness. Through his expanded awareness, Qui-Gon begins to perceive the pattern that connects all the previous incarnations of the Chosen One archetype. Each was born during times of great upheaval, when the established order had become corrupt or stagnant. Each possessed power that dwarfed that of ordinary Force users, and each faced the same fundamental choice between using their abilities to serve the greater good or to impose their will upon the universe. The darkest of these figures, the spiritual guides continue, was known as Darth Revan, though that was not his birth name. Like the boy you will train, he was discovered as a slave on a desert world. Like him, he possessed extraordinary potential and an intuitive understanding of both light and dark aspects of the Force. But when faced with the ultimate test, he chose domination over service, becoming an instrument of destruction that nearly brought the galaxy to its knees. The parallels are terrifying in their precision. Qui-Gon sees now that the circumstances of the boy's discovery, his background of slavery and hardship, Even the desert world where he lives, all echo the patterns established by previous chosen ones. The Force operates according to archetypal principles that transcend individual circumstances, creating similar conditions each time it seeks to manifest transformative power in mortal form. But the ancient texts reveal another crucial truth, one that fills Qui-Gon with both hope and determination. While the circumstances of each chosen one's origin follow similar patterns, their ultimate fate is not predetermined. The choices they make, influenced by the guidance they receive, and the love or fear that shapes their hearts, determine whether they become saviors or destroyers. This is why you have been chosen to find and train the boy, the Eternal Masters explain. Your unique gifts, your ability to perceive the full scope of cosmic patterns while remaining grounded in compassion for individual suffering, make you the ideal guide for one who will face temptations beyond ordinary understanding. As Qui-Gon continues his exploration of the ancient sanctuary, he discovers chambers that contain the preserved memories of previous Chosen One's trainers. These ghostly recordings show him Jedi Masters from across the millennia, each struggling with the same challenges he now faces. The weight of their experiences flows through his consciousness, adding layers of wisdom to his understanding. One recording shows a master from the distant past, attempting to train a chosen one who ultimately fell to darkness. The trainer's anguish is palpable as he watches his student's transformation from hopeful youth to agent of destruction. I fail to understand, the ancient master laments, that power without love becomes tyranny, and that protecting someone from all hardship prevents them from developing the strength to resist corruption. Another memory reveals a more successful training, where a chosen one achieved the perfect balance between power and wisdom. This master's approach was different, emphasizing not the control of emotion but its integration, teaching his student to feel deeply while maintaining perspective, to care passionately while accepting the limits of individual agency. The key, Qui-Gon realizes, as these lessons integrate into his consciousness, is not to shield the boy from darkness, but to help him understand it. He must learn to recognize the shadow within himself and choose light not from ignorance, but from wisdom. The prophecies themselves begin to make new sense as his understanding deepens. The phrase "bring balance to the Force" does not mean the elimination of darkness, but the integration of all aspects of existence into a greater harmony. Light and shadow, creation and destruction, love and loss, all a part of the cosmic dance that the Chosen One must learn to navigate without being consumed by any single aspect. Through the ancient stones, Qui-Gon perceives visions of the specific trials that await the boy he will train. He sees him torn between loyalty to friends and duty to the greater good, between the desire to save those he loves and the necessity of allowing some losses for the sake of ultimate victory. These tests will be more severe than any previous Chosen One has faced, for the darkness rising in this era is more sophisticated and seductive than any that has come before. The Sith Lord, who will serve as the boy's greatest temptation, understands the prophecies as well as any Jedi. He has studied the patterns of previous Chosen Ones and learned from their failures. His approach will not be crude force or obvious evil, but the gradual corruption of good intentions, the slow transformation of love into possessiveness, of protection into domination. This enemy, the spiritual guides warn, will not present himself as a destroyer, but as a savior. He will promise the boy the power to prevent all loss, to save everyone he cares about, to impose perfect order upon a chaotic galaxy. The temptation will be nearly irresistible, for it will appeal to the deepest desires of a compassionate heart. As the vision reaches its climax, Qui-Gon stands before the most ancient prophecy of all, carved in script so old that it predates the formation of the Jedi Order itself. This text speaks not of the Chosen One alone, but of the entire cosmic cycle of which he is part. It describes the eternal struggle between creation and entropy, the way consciousness evolves through conflict and resolution, the necessity of both light and shadow in the ongoing development of universal awareness. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. The prophecy declares in words that seem to speak directly to Qui-Gon's heart. The old order crumbles beneath the weight of its own contradictions, while new forms of consciousness struggle to be born. In this time of transition, power incarnate will walk among mortals, bearing within itself the potential for transcendence or annihilation. The choice between these fates rests not with the powerful alone, but with all who choose to serve love rather than fear, wisdom rather than ignorance, hope rather than despair. The weight of this cosmic responsibility settles over Qui-Gon like a mantle of starlight. He understands now that his role extends far beyond training a single exceptional student. He is participating in the fundamental evolution of consciousness itself, helping to shape the conditions under which the galaxy will either ascend to new levels of wisdom and compassion, or descend into darkness more complete than any it has known. As the holocron's light begins to fade, carrying him back to the temple archives, Qui-Gon carries with him the absolute certainty of his purpose and the profound understanding of what lies at stake. The prophecy has revealed its deepest secrets, and he is ready to play his part in the cosmic drama that will determine the future of all life in the galaxy. The ninth holocron glows with a warmth that speaks of deep bonds forged across years of shared experience. As its light envelops you, the archive chamber transforms into the meditation gardens of the Jedi Temple, where morning dew catches the first rays of Coruscant's artificial dawn, and the air carries the gentle fragrance of blossoms that bloom in defiance of the urban world surrounding them. Here, in this sanctuary of natural beauty, within the heart of galactic civilization, the relationship between Master and Padawan reveals itself in all its complexity and profound significance. You witness Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi as they truly were, not the legends that history would make of them, but the man and boy who found in each other something neither expected to discover. Obi-Wan sits in meditation posture beneath an ancient tree whose roots run deeper than the temple's foundations, his young face bearing the concentration of one who struggles to understand concepts that challenge everything he has been taught. At 17, he is no longer the uncertain child who was nearly rejected from Jedi training, but neither is he yet the confident knight he will become. In this moment of transition, he exists in perfect balance between doubt and faith, shaped by a master whose unconventional wisdom both inspires and troubles him. Master Obi-Wan says, his voice carrying the weight of questions that have tormented his meditations, "The Council teaches that emotion leads to suffering, yet you speak of love as the Force's greatest expression. How can both truths coexist?" Qui-Gon's response comes not in words but in a demonstration that reveals the depth of his understanding. He extends his hand toward a cluster of flowers that have begun to wither in the garden's shadows, and under his touch they bloom with renewed vitality. The display is subtle, requiring no dramatic gestures or displays of power, yet it demonstrates a connection to the living force that transcends anything taught in formal classes. The Council fears emotion because they have seen its potential for corruption, Qui-Gon explains, his voice carrying the wisdom of experience tempered by compassion. But they mistake attachment for love, possession for connection. True love seeks the highest good for others, even when that good requires personal sacrifice. It is not an emotion to be suppressed, but the very energy that connects all living things. Through your enhanced perception, you witness the profound impact these words have on the young Padawan. Obi-Wan has always struggled with the Jedi Code's demand for emotional detachment, his naturally compassionate nature chafing against rules that seem to deny the very feelings that drive his desire to help others. In his master's teaching, he finds permission to care deeply while maintaining the wisdom to act for the greater good. The bond between them runs deeper than the traditional master-Padawan relationship, forged through shared experiences that have tested both their skills and their character. You see flashes of their adventures together, missions where Qui-Gon's willingness to trust in the Force's guidance led them into danger, but also to victories that conventional wisdom could never have achieved. "Your methods trouble the Council," Obi-Wan observes during one of their training sessions, his tone carefully neutral, but his concern evident. "Master Windu spoke to me yesterday about the importance of following established protocols. He suggested that your innovations might not be the best model for a young Jedi to follow." The pain that flickers across Qui-Gon's features is quickly hidden, but you sense the deep wound that such criticism inflicts. He has spent his entire life walking the narrow path between service to the Force and obedience to Jedi tradition, knowing that his unique gifts set him apart from his peers. To hear that this separation might harm his Padawan's development strikes at his deepest fears. "The Council sees risk where I see opportunity," he replies carefully. "They prefer the safety of proven methods to the uncertainty of innovation. But the Force is alive, Obi-Wan, constantly growing and changing. We must be willing to grow with it, or we risk becoming guardians of dead tradition rather than servants of living truth." The wisdom in these words will echo through Obi-Wan's mind for years to come, shaping his own approach to the Force long after his master's death. Even as he struggles to understand Qui-Gon's unconventional methods, he recognizes the deep love and commitment that drives them. His master is not a rebel seeking to overthrow the Jedi Order, but a healer trying to cure its growing rigidity before it becomes a fatal weakness. Through the holocron's revelations, you witness the moments of doubt that plague their relationship. There are times when Obi-Wan questions whether he is worthy of such an extraordinary master, moments when his more conventional training seems inadequate to match Qui-Gon's intuitive brilliance. Conversely, there are periods when Qui-Gon worries that his unorthodox methods are failing to prepare his Padawan for the challenges ahead. "Sometimes I wonder," Qui-Gon confides to the spiritual guides who continue to counsel him, "whether I am doing the boy a disservice. The galaxy he will inherit will require Jedi who can work within established systems, not mavericks who trust in visions others cannot see." The ancient masters who watch over him offer reassurance born of cosmic perspective. The boy's destiny is intertwined with yours in ways that transcend conventional teacher-student relationships, they explain. You are not merely training him to be a Jedi, you are preparing him to guide the Chosen One when your time has passed. For that role he will need the wisdom to think beyond tradition, the courage to act on faith rather than certainty. This revelation adds new layers of meaning to every interaction between Master and Padawan. When Qui-Gon teaches Obi-Wan to trust in the Force's guidance, even when logic suggests a different course, he is preparing him for a future where such trust will be essential. When he demonstrates the importance of looking beyond surface appearances to perceive deeper truths, he is equipping his student with tools that will prove crucial in understanding the Chosen One's complex nature. The garden around them seems to pulse with the rhythm of their shared learning, seasons cycling through their natural patterns as years of training compressed into moments of perfect understanding. You witness Obi-Wan's gradual transformation from uncertain youth to confident young man, his natural abilities enhanced by exposure to his master's unconventional wisdom. "There will come a time," Qui-Gon tells him during one of their final training sessions, "when you will face choices that no Jedi code can fully guide. In those moments, remember that the Force speaks through love, through the desire to serve something greater than yourself. Trust in that voice, even when it leads you away from what others consider safe or wise." The prophetic weight of these words will not become clear until much later, when Obi-Wan finds himself responsible for training Anakin Skywalker without his master's guidance. But the foundation is being laid here, in quiet moments of instruction that seem ordinary but carry the weight of galactic destiny. Through your enhanced perception, you begin to understand why the Force guided Qui-Gon to choose this particular Padawan. From among the many available candidates, Obi-Wan possesses a rare combination of traits that will prove essential in the trials ahead. His natural compassion provides a counterbalance to the Jedi Order's increasing rigidity, while his respect for tradition offers stability that will anchor him when confronted with unprecedented challenges. You see the potential in others that they cannot see in themselves. Obi-Wan observes during one of their philosophical discussions, "Is this gift something that can be taught, or is it simply part of your nature?" Qui-Gon's response reveals the depth of his understanding about the nature of perception and potential. Every being carries within them the capacity for greatness, he explains. The Force shows us not what is, but what could be if the right conditions are created. The art lies not in seeing potential, but in helping others recognize and nurture it within themselves. This principle will guide Obi-Wan's approach to training the Chosen One, helping him recognize that Anakin's extraordinary power must be balanced with equally extraordinary wisdom and compassion. The seeds of this understanding are planted here, in conversations that seem to be about general philosophy, but are actually preparing the young Padawan for the most important role any Jedi has ever been asked to play. As the vision within the holocron begins to fade, you witness one final exchange between Master and Padawan, a moment of perfect understanding that transcends words. They sit together in meditation as the garden's artificial evening settles around them, their consciousness joined in communion with the living force that flows through all things. In that moment of unity, Obi-Wan glimpses the vast pattern that his master perceives, the cosmic web of connection and consequence that shapes every decision and action. He does not yet understand the full implications of what he sees, but he stores the experience in his heart, where it will provide guidance in the dark times ahead. "Whatever comes," Qui-Gon says softly, as they conclude their meditation, "remember that you are never truly alone. The Force connects all things, and love transcends even death itself. When you can no longer hear my voice in the physical realm, listen for it, in the space between thoughts, in the silence between heartbeats. I will always be there, watching over you and those you are destined to guide." The promise carries weight that neither fully comprehends in this moment, but it will prove to be the most important gift the Master ever gives his apprentice. For in the trials ahead, when Obi-Wan faces challenges that would break a lesser spirit, he will find strength in the certainty that his Master's love and wisdom continue to flow through the Force itself, offering guidance to those who know how to listen. The 10th holocron pulses with an energy that seems to carry the weight of destiny itself, its crystalline surface reflecting light in patterns that shift and change like glimpses of multiple possible futures. As you activate this penultimate recording, the familiar sensation of temporal displacement brings with it an undercurrent of finality, as if the Force itself acknowledges that the end of one chapter in the cosmic story draws near. The vision that unfolds transports you to Qui-Gon's private quarters in the temple, but this space has been transformed into something far more profound than simple living arrangements. Every surface bears evidence of intensive preparation meditation crystals arranged in precise geometric patterns, ancient texts spread across reading surfaces, star charts marked with calculations that seem to map not just physical locations but convergence points in the Force itself. Qui-Gon moves through this controlled chaos with the methodical precision of a man who knows his time grows short. At 58 years old, his hair has turned completely gray, and lines of wisdom and sorrow mark his weathered features. But his connection to the Force has never been stronger, his perception so acute that he seems to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality. The moment approaches, he murmurs to himself as he studies a holographic projection of the Naboo system, his fingers tracing orbital patterns that align with prophecies written millennia before the planet's discovery. All the threads of fate converge on this small world, this seemingly insignificant conflict that will reshape the galaxy's destiny. The spiritual guides who have counseled him throughout his life materialize with unusual clarity, their forms solidified by the intensity of cosmic forces gathering around this crucial moment. They watch him with expressions that mingle pride, sorrow, and profound respect, for they understand better than any living being the magnitude of the sacrifice he is preparing to make. "You have seen your death," one of the ancient masters states, their voice carrying the weight of cosmic certainty. "You know that the mission to Naboo will be your last in physical form, yet you proceed without hesitation. Such acceptance of fate is rare even among those who have transcended mortal existence." Qui-Gon's response reveals the depth of his spiritual evolution. "I do not accept fate," he replies with quiet dignity. "I embrace purpose. The visions show me not what must happen, but what will happen if I choose to play my part in the cosmic pattern. That choice remains mine to make, and I make it freely." Through your enhanced perception, you witness the visions that have guided him to this moment of absolute certainty. The images flow through his consciousness like a river of liquid starlight, showing him the intricate chain of cause and effect that his death will set in motion. He sees Obi-Wan, grief-stricken but determined, taking the boy Anakin as his Padawan. He perceives the clone wars that will follow, terrible in their scope but necessary to expose the corruption that has taken root in the Republic's heart. Most importantly, he glimpses the ultimate redemption that awaits even the darkest choices, the love that will triumph over hatred in the galaxy's darkest hour. "The boy's training must begin immediately after my death," he explains to his spiritual counselors, his voice carrying the weight of prophetic certainty. The traditional waiting period, the formal approval processes, all must be set aside. The Force will provide the circumstances to make this possible, but only if I am no longer present to complicate the political dynamics. The painful irony is not lost on him. His unconventional methods and frequent conflicts with the Council have created an atmosphere where his endorsement of the boy might actually hinder acceptance of his training. His death will remove this obstacle while simultaneously creating the emotional conditions necessary for Obi-Wan to defy tradition and take Anakin as his student. "You have spent your entire life preparing for this moment," another spiritual guide observes. "Every vision, every lesson learned, every relationship forged has been building toward the choice you must make on Naboo. Are you truly ready to transform from teacher to eternal guardian?" The question goes to the heart of what awaits him beyond physical death. The knowledge gained from the ancient will texts, combined with his extraordinary connection to the living Force, will allow him to achieve what few Jedi in history have managed: conscious continuation after the dissolution of the body. But this transformation requires complete surrender of attachment to physical existence, total acceptance of service in a form that transcends individual identity. "I have been ready since the day I first heard the Force speak through the trees of my childhood," Qui-Gon responds with absolute certainty. "Physical life was always temporary. My true service begins when these limitations are finally removed." As he continues his preparations, you witness the meticulous care with which he arranges the circumstances of his departure. His final conversations with Obi-Wan carry hidden layers of instruction, preparing his Padawan for challenges he cannot yet imagine. His interactions with the Council plant seeds of doubt about their rigid adherence to tradition, doubts that will bloom into questioning when events force them to confront the inadequacy of their conventional wisdom. The holocron reveals the most intimate details of his final meditations, moments when he communes with the Force so deeply that his consciousness briefly merges with the cosmic intelligence that guides all existence. In these transcendent states, he perceives the vast pattern of which his death is merely one small but crucial element. The darkness that approaches is greater than the Council realizes. He confides to the Force itself during one of these profound communions. It has taken root not just in hidden places, but in the very institutions they trust most completely. Only by experiencing loss will they learn to see beyond the surface of things, to recognize deception that wears the mask of order. The response comes not in words but in waves of understanding that encompass eons of cosmic evolution. The Force shows him that what appears to be the triumph of evil is actually a necessary phase in the galaxy's spiritual development. Just as individuals must face their shadows to achieve wholeness, entire civilizations must confront the darkness within their collective soul before they can ascend to higher levels of consciousness. This knowledge brings him profound peace, transforming what could be despair into deep acceptance. His death will serve as a catalyst for changes that span decades, creating ripple effects that will ultimately lead to the galaxy's redemption. The boy he discovers on Tatooine will face choices that no previous chosen one has encountered, but he will also have access to guidance that transcends the limitations of any single teacher. The mirror phrase approaches. Qui-Gon realizes, as his preparations near completion, he recalls the vision that began this entire journey, the whisper of destiny that first called to him in childhood. That whisper has grown into a symphony of cosmic purpose, and soon it will crescendo in a moment that will echo through the Force for generations to come. As he makes his final arrangements, ensuring that crucial knowledge will be preserved and transmitted to those who will need it, Qui-Gon experiences a profound sense of completion. Every relationship, every lesson, every moment of growth has been building toward this ultimate act of service. His life has been a single sustained note in the Force's eternal song, and now that note must blend into the greater harmony that encompasses all existence. The crystal formations in his quarters pulse with increasing intensity as the time of departure approaches, their resonance attuned to the cosmic forces gathering around the Naboo crisis. Through them, he senses the approach of the Dark Warrior who will be his instrument of transformation, a being so consumed by hatred that he has become a perfect tool for the cosmic balance that governs all things. We do not choose our enemies, he reflects as the vision within the holocron begins its final movement. We choose how we face them. The Sith who awaits me on Naboo believes he serves the darkness, but in truth, he serves the greater pattern, just as surely as I do. His hatred will destroy my body, but it will also liberate my spirit to serve in ways that flesh cannot permit. The final image shows him standing in perfect meditation posture, his consciousness expanded to encompass the entire galaxy. In this moment of cosmic awareness, he perceives every thread in the vast tapestry of existence, every connection that links past to future, choice to consequence, individual to universal. His death is not an ending, but a transformation, not a defeat, but the ultimate victory of love over the illusion of separation. As the holocron's light fades, carrying you back to the present moment in the temple archives, you understand that you have witnessed the most profound act of faith in recorded history. Qui-Gon Jinn has chosen to die not from despair or resignation, but from complete trust in the Force's wisdom and absolute commitment to serving purposes larger than individual survival. The preparation is complete. The choice has been made, and the galaxy stands poised on the threshold of changes that will echo through eternity. The whisper that began in a grove of Force-sensitive trees has become a roar of certainty that will reshape the very nature of existence itself. The 11th holocron emanates an energy unlike any of the others, its crystalline surface seeming to contain captured starlight that pulses with the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. As you activate this sacred repository, the archive chamber dissolves completely, replaced by a realm that exists beyond the boundaries of normal space and time. You find yourself suspended in the infinite expanse of the Force itself, witnessing the moment when sacrifice transcends individual loss to become universal transformation. Here, in this dimension where thought becomes reality and intention shapes existence, you observe the immediate aftermath of Qui-Gon Jinn's death on Naboo. But what you witness is not an ending, but a beginning, not the conclusion of a life, but the commencement of a new form of service that will echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The transition from physical existence to Force consciousness unfolds before you like the opening of a cosmic flower. Qui-Gon's spirit, freed from the limitations of flesh, expands to encompass awareness that spans star systems. His individual identity remains intact, but it is now integrated into the vast network of consciousness that underlies all existence. He has become what the ancient will texts described as an eternal guardian, a being whose love for life transcends the boundaries of death itself. The pain of separation is temporary. His transformed consciousness radiates across the dimensional spaces, but the connections forged through love are eternal. What appears to be loss is merely change in the nature of relationship. Through your enhanced perception, you witness the immediate consequences of his sacrifice rippling outward like waves from a stone cast into still water. On Naboo, Obi-Wan kneels beside his master's body, grief-stricken yet somehow strengthened by the profound peace that emanates from the fallen Jedi. The young Padawan cannot yet hear his master's voice in its new form, but he feels the presence that will guide him through the trials ahead. The boy must be trained. Qui-Gon's spirit whispers across the Force, his words carrying the weight of cosmic necessity. Though Obi-Wan cannot consciously perceive this guidance, it flows into his consciousness at levels deeper than thought, influencing the decision that will shape galactic destiny. The vision expands to show you the broader implications of this moment. Across the galaxy, Force-sensitive beings pause in their activities, touched by the disturbance created when a consciousness as profound as Qui-Gon's transitions to a higher state of existence. Some experience it as a moment of unexpected peace, others as a sudden clarity about decisions they must make. All are subtly influenced by the love that now flows freely through the cosmic web, unimpeded by physical limitations. Master Yoda, meditating in the temple's highest chamber, feels the transition most acutely. His ancient eyes open wide with wonder and sorrow as he perceives the magnitude of what has occurred. Gone yet not gone, he murmurs to himself. Transformed young Qui-Gon has become. A new path he shows us, a bridge between worlds of matter and spirit. The spiritual guides who have counseled Qui-Gon throughout his life gather around his newly transformed consciousness, their eternal forms radiating welcome and profound respect. They have witnessed many transitions over the millennia, but few as consciously chosen or as perfectly executed as this one. His death was not a random tragedy, but a precisely calibrated sacrifice that serves purposes spanning decades. You have achieved what few in galactic history have managed. The ancient masters communicate through pure intention. You have transformed willing sacrifice into evolutionary catalyst, personal loss into universal gain. Your death on Naboo will save more lives than your continued physical existence ever could have preserved. Through the cosmic perspective now available to him, Qui-Gon perceives the intricate chain of cause and effect that his sacrifice has initiated. He sees Obi-Wan, driven by grief and determination, insisting on training Anakin, despite the Council's reservations. He witnesses the boy's growth under guidance, influenced by principles his master embedded in his Padawan's consciousness. Most importantly, he observes the gradual awakening of love in Anakin's heart, the emotion that will ultimately prove stronger than the darkness that seeks to claim him. The Council's fear of attachment blinds them to attachment's true nature. Qui-Gon realizes with crystalline clarity, they cannot see that love without attachment is the very foundation of selfless service. The boy will love deeply, and that love will be both his greatest vulnerability and his ultimate salvation. The vision shows you glimpses of the future that Qui-Gon's sacrifice makes possible. You see Anakin and Padme, their secret marriage, a rebellion against Jedi orthodoxy, but also an expression of the very love that connects all life. You witness the Clone Wars, terrible in their scope, but necessary to expose the corruption that has taken root in galactic institutions. You observe the rise of the Empire, a darkness so complete that it forces every conscious being to choose between complicity and resistance. But through it all, you perceive the thread of love that Qui-Gon's sacrifice has strengthened, the connection between father and son that will ultimately prove stronger than the hatred that seeks to divide them. His death on Naboo plants seeds that will bloom decades later in the most unlikely place, when a young man's faith in his father's goodness overcomes the most powerful dark side user in galactic history. This is why the Force chose you, the Eternal Masters explain as Qui-Gon's understanding deepens. Your entire life was preparation for this moment of perfect surrender. Every vision, every lesson, every relationship was designed to prepare you for a death that would transform the galaxy's destiny. The sacrifice reveals its deeper meaning as the vision continues. Qui-Gon's willingness to die for the greater good demonstrates a level of faith that transcends rational calculation. His death proves that love is stronger than self-preservation, that service to others can motivate choices that pure logic would reject. This demonstration ripples through the Force, touching countless lives and inspiring choices that gradually shift the balance toward light. Through his expanded awareness, Qui-Gon perceives the subtle ways his sacrifice influences events across the galaxy. Senators who might have supported authoritarian measures hesitate, touched by inexplicable doubts about the rightness of trading freedom for security. Ordinary citizens find unexpected courage to resist oppression, strengthened by a sense that they are not alone in their struggle. Even among the Jedi, rigid adherence to tradition begins to soften as the reality of changing times forces adaptation. Your death teaches what your life could not, the spiritual guides observe. It shows that the greatest power comes not from what we can force to happen, but from what we are willing to allow to happen through us. The boy will learn this lesson eventually, but only because your sacrifice demonstrates its truth so powerfully. The cosmic perspective reveals the ultimate irony of Qui-Gon's sacrifice. The man who spent his life being criticized for his unorthodox methods achieves his greatest victory by embracing the most traditional Jedi teaching of all, the willingness to sacrifice oneself for the greater good. But his sacrifice is informed by wisdom that transcends traditional understanding, shaped by knowledge of the living force that flows through all existence. As the vision reaches its emotional climax, you witness the moment when Qui-Gon's spirit first makes contact with the living realm in its new form. Obi-Wan, struggling with the burden of training a Padawan whose power exceeds his own understanding, suddenly hears his master's voice carried on the cosmic wind. "Trust in the Force, my young apprentice," the voice whispers through dimensions of existence beyond physical perception. The boy's destiny is greater than either of us can fully comprehend, but love will guide him through the darkness ahead. Your faith in his essential goodness will prove stronger than any teaching the Sith can offer. The connection established in that moment becomes a bridge between realms, allowing Qui-Gon to continue his guidance in a form that transcends the limitations of physical interaction. He cannot make choices for those he loves, but he can offer wisdom at crucial moments, support when hope seems lost, and the constant reminder that love transcends even death itself. The meaning of his sacrifice crystallizes into perfect clarity as the vision draws toward its conclusion. Qui-Gon Jinn did not die as a failure who fell before accomplishing his mission. He died as a master strategist whose ultimate victory required the surrender of everything he held dear in physical form. His death was not the end of his service, but its transformation into something more powerful and far-reaching than any single lifetime could contain. The whisper of destiny has become an eternal song. His transformed consciousness radiates across the cosmic web, echoing the prophetic words that marked the beginning of his extraordinary journey. What began as a call to service has become a bridge between worlds, a demonstration that love truly is the force that binds the galaxy together. As the holocron's light begins to fade, carrying you back toward the material realm, you understand that you have witnessed the most profound transformation in recorded galactic history. Qui-Gon Jinn's sacrifice revealed the true nature of the Force itself as conscious love seeking to know and express itself through countless forms of life. His death became the foundation upon which the galaxy's redemption would ultimately rest, proving that no sacrifice made in service of love is ever truly lost. The 12th holocron glows with a light that seems to emanate from beyond the visible spectrum, its radiance carrying within it the essence of consciousness, unbound by physical limitations. As you activate this final repository of hidden knowledge, you find yourself transported not to any specific location, but to the realm where transcended spirits dwell, the dimension of pure Force energy, where love and wisdom exist in their most perfected forms. Here, in this space between spaces where time flows according to the rhythms of cosmic necessity, rather than linear progression, you witness Qui-Gon Jinn in his transformed state as an eternal master. His presence radiates peace and profound understanding, yet retains all the compassion and gentle humor that marked his physical existence. He has become what the ancient Jedi could only dream of achieving, a conscious bridge between the material and spiritual realms. The transformation is complete, yet the essence remains unchanged. Where once he walked among the living as a voice for the Force's wisdom, now he flows through the cosmic web as wisdom itself, touching the consciousness of those who need guidance at precisely the moments when such contact can influence the course of galactic destiny. Death is not the opposite of life. His presence communicates across the dimensional barriers, but its graduation into a form of existence that transcends the limitations of flesh and time. What I can accomplish now as spirit dwarfs anything I achieved while bound by physical form. Through your enhanced perception, you witness the vast network of consciousness that Qui-Gon has joined, a gathering of enlightened beings from across the galaxy's history who have chosen to continue their service in this transcended state. They form a council of eternal wisdom, guides who watch over the ongoing evolution of life itself, intervening only when cosmic balance requires their influence. The scope of his new existence unfolds before you like a revelation of divine architecture. Where once his awareness was limited to a single location and moment, now he can perceive the entirety of galactic civilization simultaneously. He observes the birth of stars and the death of worlds, the first steps of newborn creatures, and the final thoughts of ancient beings, all part of an infinite tapestry of existence that his consciousness now helps to weave. Most significantly, you see his ongoing guidance of those whose destinies remain intertwined with the cosmic pattern he helped to shape. Obi-Wan, struggling with the challenges of training Anakin, receives subtle inspiration during his darkest moments of doubt. The guidance comes not as direct communication, but as intuitive understanding that flows through the Force connection they forged during their years together as Master and Padawan. The boy's anger troubles you. Qui-Gon's spirit whispers through the cosmic currents, his words reaching Obi-Wan's consciousness during a particularly difficult training session. But remember that passion can serve the light when guided by wisdom. Do not seek to suppress his emotions, but to help him understand their proper expression. The influence extends far beyond direct guidance, rippling through the Force to touch countless lives across the galaxy. A young rebellion pilot faced with an impossible choice between personal safety and the greater good suddenly finds the courage to sacrifice himself for his squadron's survival. A senator on Coruscant, contemplating whether to speak out against growing tyranny, feels an inexplicable surge of determination that leads to a speech that inspires others to resist. A mother on a distant world, teaching her children about compassion and justice, discovers words of wisdom that seem to come from beyond her own experience. Through the cosmic perspective now available to him, Qui-Gon perceives the gradual healing of the philosophical divide that separated him from the Jedi Council during his physical life. Master Yoda, in particular, comes to understand the profound wisdom underlying approaches that once seemed dangerously unorthodox. The ancient Grand Master's own connection to the Force deepens as he learns to integrate Qui-Gon's teachings about the living Force with traditional Jedi wisdom. "Right you were, about many things," Yoda admits during one of his meditations. His words carried on the Force winds to where Qui-Gon's consciousness dwells. Too rigid, our thinking had become, too fearful of change, when change itself serves the Force's purposes. This acknowledgement creates ripples of healing that extend throughout the Jedi Order, gradually softening the dogmatic adherence to tradition that had begun to calcify their understanding. The influence is subtle but profound, creating space for the kind of adaptive wisdom that will prove essential in the trials ahead. The vision shows you Qui-Gon's most important ongoing relationship, his continued connection to Anakin Skywalker. The boy who will become the focal point of galactic destiny cannot consciously perceive his invisible guardian, but Qui-Gon's presence influences his development in ways that will prove crucial when the ultimate tests arrive. During Anakin's darkest moments, when the whispers of the dark side promise easy solutions to complex problems, Qui-Gon's spirit provides a subtle counterbalance. He cannot override the boy's free will or spare him from the choices that will define his character, but he can ensure that love remains present as an alternative to hatred, that hope persists even in the depths of despair. The path he must walk leads through shadow deeper than any previous chosen one has faced, Qui-Gon observes to his fellow eternal guardians. But the love planted in his heart will prove stronger than any darkness if given the chance to grow. The most profound aspect of Qui-Gon's transformed existence is his role in preparing for the ultimate redemption that awaits even the darkest choices. Through his expanded awareness, he perceives the moment, decades in the future, when a son's faith in his father's essential goodness will overcome the most powerful dark side corruption in galactic history. That moment of redemption becomes the focal point around which all his current efforts revolve. You witness him working across time itself, influencing events in ways that will create the precise conditions necessary for that ultimate triumph of love over hatred. A conversation between Luke and Obi-Wan about the nature of the Force, shaped by wisdom that originated with Qui-Gon's teachings about the living Force. A moment of hesitation in Vader's mind when confronted with his son's unwavering faith, influenced by memories of a Jedi Master who once believed that love was the Force's greatest expression. The boy's sacrifice on the second Death Star will not be meaningless. Qui-Gon's presence radiates across the cosmic web, his certainty born of perception that spans all possible timelines. It will awaken the love that has slept within his father's heart, dormant but never truly destroyed. As the vision reaches its climactic revelation, you understand that Qui-Gon's role as Eternal Master extends far beyond the immediate crisis of his own era. He has become a permanent guardian of the principles he embodied during his physical life, ensuring that wisdom about the living Force continues to flow through the galaxy's consciousness long after traditional Jedi teachings have been forgotten. His influence will touch future generations of Force users, those who rediscover the ancient ways after the Empire's fall and the Jedi Order's eventual restoration. Through the cosmic web that connects all Force-sensitive beings, his understanding of balance and compassion will inform new approaches to training that avoid the rigidity that contributed to the old Order's downfall. The galaxy will face many trials in the eons ahead. He communicates to the Eternal Council of which he has become part. But the lessons learned through this generation's struggles will serve as foundation for wisdom that prevents such darkness from taking root again. The completion of his character arc becomes clear as the vision draws toward its conclusion. The rebel who questioned authority has become the ultimate authority on the nature of loving service. The maverick who challenged tradition has established new traditions that will guide future generations, The Master who died in apparent failure has achieved the most complete victory possible, transforming personal sacrifice into universal salvation. In this realm of pure consciousness, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of ages, Qui-Gon Jinn continues his eternal service to the Force. He has found the peace that eluded him during his physical existence, not through the ending of struggle, but through its transformation into purpose that transcends individual limitation. The boy he discovered on Tatooine will eventually fulfill his destiny as the Chosen One, bringing balance to the Force through choices that honor both light and shadow. The Padawan he trained will become the Master who guides that fulfillment. And the love that motivated his ultimate sacrifice will prove stronger than all the hatred the galaxy can produce, ensuring that hope persists even in its darkest hour. The Eternal Master watches over it all, his presence a constant reminder that service to the greater good never truly ends, but only changes form as consciousness evolves toward ever greater expressions of cosmic love. The final holocron emanates a gentle radiance that seems to contain within it the accumulated peace of all the cosmos, its light soft as starshine and warm as the first breath of dawn. As you activate this concluding chapter of Qui-Gon Jinn's extraordinary saga, the archive chamber around you transforms one last time, becoming a window into the infinite serenity that pervades the deepest regions of the Force itself. You find yourself drifting through space that exists beyond the boundaries of any single galaxy, suspended in the cosmic web where all consciousness converges in perfect harmony. Here, among streams of light that carry the essence of every loving thought ever conceived, the complete story of Qui-Gon's journey reaches its eternal resolution. The whisper that began in a grove of Force-sensitive trees has become part of the fundamental song that underlies all existence. In this realm of ultimate peace, time flows like a gentle river, carrying within its currents the memories of all who have chosen love over fear, service over self-interest, wisdom over ignorance. Qui-Gon's consciousness moves through these streams like a master navigator, his presence bringing comfort to new souls, making their transition from physical existence, while offering guidance to those still walking the path of flesh and shadow. Every ending becomes a beginning. His transformed awareness radiates through the cosmic currents, the words carrying with them the accumulated wisdom of eons. Every loss opens space for new forms of love to manifest. The galaxy continues its eternal dance between light and shadow, but now that dance includes rhythms of compassion that will echo through all future ages. Through your enhanced perception, you witness the vast pattern of which Qui-Gon's story forms just one thread, albeit a crucial one. Across the galaxy on countless worlds, the principles he embodied during his physical life continue to influence the choices made by beings who never knew his name. A teacher on Coruscant speaks to her students about the importance of listening to one's inner wisdom. A healer on Naboo tends to the wounded without asking which side they fought for. A mother on Tatooine tells her children stories about heroes who chose sacrifice over safety, love over power. The ripple effects of his sacrifice continue to spread, touching lives in ways both subtle and profound. The Jedi Order, rebuilt decades after its destruction, incorporates teachings about the living force that honor emotional connection while maintaining spiritual discipline. Future generations of Force users learn to balance tradition with innovation, authority with independence, cosmic perspective with individual compassion. You see Luke Skywalker, now an old man teaching a new generation of Jedi, sharing wisdom that traces its lineage back to conversations between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the Temple Gardens. The young students listen with the same wonder that once filled Qui-Gon's eyes when he first heard the trees speak of cosmic mysteries. The cycle continues, but it has been enriched by understandings that prevent the rigidity and fear that led to the old order's downfall. The boy fulfilled his destiny. Qui-Gon's presence observes with profound satisfaction. his awareness touching the moment when Anakin's love for his son overcame the darkness that had consumed his heart. Balance was restored not through the destruction of shadow, but through its integration with light. The galaxy learned that redemption remains possible even after the deepest fall. In the cosmic realm where consciousness dwells beyond the limitations of individual identity, Qui-Gon joins the eternal chorus of those who have chosen to serve something greater than themselves. His voice blends with countless others, all united in the understanding that love is the fundamental force from which all other energies derive their meaning and purpose. The vision expands to show you the continuing evolution of galactic consciousness, the gradual awakening to truths that Qui-Gon perceived during his physical lifetime, but could only partially share with others. Wars become less frequent as beings learn to resolve conflicts through understanding rather than force. Art and music flourish as creative spirits draw inspiration from the living force that flows through all things. Science advances in harmony with wisdom rather than in opposition to it. What I glimpsed in fragments during my mortal years, Qui-Gon's consciousness radiates across the infinite expanse, now reveals itself as the complete tapestry of existence. Every thread matters, every pattern serves the greater design, every choice contributes to the ongoing evolution of cosmic awareness. The peaceful conclusion encompasses not just Qui-Gon's personal journey, but the resolution of all the conflicts and struggles that marked his era. The Clone Wars become a remembered lesson about the cost of choosing fear over trust. The Empire's reign serves as a cautionary tale about the seductive nature of order without justice. The rebellion's victory demonstrates the power of hope sustained by ordinary beings who refuse to accept that darkness must triumph. As you drift through these streams of cosmic memory, you encounter the spirits of all those whose lives intersected with Qui-Gon's during his physical existence. Obi-Wan, his consciousness expanded by decades of meditation and service, radiates gratitude for the unconventional training that prepared him for challenges no traditional education could have addressed. Anakin, his spirit finally at peace after a lifetime of internal struggle, expresses wonder at the love that waited patiently through his darkest years. You are right, Master. Obi-Wan's spirit communicates across the dimensional boundaries. The Force did speak through you in ways we could not initially understand. Your willingness to trust in visions others, dismissed as dangerous, proved to be the galaxy's salvation. The acknowledgement carries with it the healing of old wounds, the resolution of disagreements that once seemed irreconcilable. In the realm of pure consciousness, the artificial divisions between orthodox and unorthodox, traditional and innovative, individual and universal fade into meaninglessness. All that remains is the love that motivated every choice, the desire to serve life in all its magnificent complexity. Dooku's spirit appears as well, his consciousness finally freed from the bitterness and disillusionment that led to his fall. The Master, who once trained Qui-Gon, expresses profound regret for the path that separated him from the light, but also gratitude for the forgiveness that makes redemption possible even beyond physical death. I should have followed your example. Dooku's transformed awareness communicates with humility, born of ultimate understanding. Your willingness to question authority while maintaining faith in the Force's fundamental goodness was wisdom I mistook for naivety. The dark side offered me power, but you found something infinitely more valuable in surrender to cosmic will. As the vision draws toward its final moments, you witness the complete integration of Qui-Gon's consciousness into the eternal flow of the Force itself. He remains distinctly himself while becoming part of something infinitely larger, an individual voice in the cosmic chorus that sings the universe into existence with each passing moment. The garden where he once trained with Obi-Wan appears in the vision one last time, but now it exists in a dimension beyond physical space, a realm where the most beautiful aspects of every world converge in perfect harmony. Here, surrounded by flowers that bloom with the light of distant stars and trees, whose leaves rustle with the whispers of cosmic wisdom, The eternal gathering of enlightened souls continues its work of guiding the galaxy's ongoing evolution. The journey continues. Qui-Gon's presence radiates with infinite gentleness, his words carrying the peace that comes from absolute certainty about the nature of existence. New challenges will arise. New heroes will answer the call. New forms of love will manifest to heal whatever wounds the future may bring. The Force flows through all things, connecting every heart to the cosmic source from which all blessings flow. The final image shows nebulae swirling in distant reaches of space, their gases forming new stars that will nurture new worlds where new forms of consciousness will awaken to their cosmic heritage. The cycle of existence continues, enriched by the wisdom gained through struggle, enhanced by the love discovered through loss, perfected by the understanding that emerges when individual will aligns with universal purpose. As the holocron's light fades for the final time, carrying you back to the quiet sanctuary of the temple archives, you understand that you have been privileged to witness one of the most profound spiritual journeys in galactic history. Qui-Gon Jinn's path from questioning child to eternal master demonstrates the magnificent potential that lies dormant within every conscious being, waiting to be awakened by the choice to serve love rather than fear. The mystery has been revealed, the pattern completed, the whisper transformed into eternal song. In the silence that follows, you carry with you the peace of knowing that love truly is the force that binds the galaxy together, and that no act of selfless service is ever lost, but becomes part of the infinite tapestry of existence that encompasses all that was, is, and ever shall be. Thank you for joining me on this cosmic journey through the hidden depths of one of the galaxy's greatest heroes. If these tales of ancient wisdom and eternal love have touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe and continue exploring the mysteries that lie hidden in the spaces between the stars. Until we meet again in the realm of dreams and wonder, may the Force be with you, always.